So it looks like at this point that Marvel is pretty desperate. They are dismally performing in the box office until recently with Deadpool and Wolverine, which was pretty much guaranteed to do pretty well. But Marvel needs to pivot, and they know it, and they're absolutely desperate. And at Comic-Con this year, it absolutely showed. In fact, if you take a look at the headlines, you can see just how desperate. In fact, they're being called out by every outlet out there for just how desperate they are, including Forbes, which we'll get to in a moment. But they're desperate enough to bring back Robert Downey Jr. for Avengers 5 as Doctor Doom, and it sounds like many other films as well. I'm not sure how this is going to go over with the larger audience, but apparently the folks at Comic-Con were absolutely raving about that decision. I don't know why. The Avengers Doomsday is just another story in a multiverse that I think people are largely disinterested in. And when you look at, well, the story here from videogames247.com, you'll see that the Russo brothers are really going to try to make a desperate attempt to get you back. And they're very much worried, according to this author, and says, oh dear, it looks like Disney's a bit worried about the future of the MCU. And is bringing back Marvel Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. Sorry about that. But that's kind of the truth, isn't it? Marvel Downey Jr. Why? Well, he's the basically star of it all. He's the beginning and pretty much the end, because everything after him became a convoluted mess. So now you're bringing him back to be more of a convoluted mess. And you absolutely have to, because as this author points out, they're not going down the Kang road. The Kang road was basically polluted by Jonathan Majors when he was found guilty of accusations for doing some very bad things to a young woman, somebody whom he was supposed to be having a relationship with. Now, in this quote that I think is probably the most pertinent thing out of this article, it says, I don't know about you, but this feels ridiculously gimmicky. Aside from being a bit of creatively cowardly decision, and because this person's ideology wanted this character to be a Romani actor, which I'm not sure anybody but an infinitesimally small part of the audience was actually interested in. But it's obvious that there's going to be some kind of multiverse at play, and that's Marvel's whole thing at the minute. So maybe this is something of a red herring, but still feels like it's a quite groan-worthy decision. And again, I mean, it's not just, outlets like VG 24/7. No, it's outlets like World of Real, who also tell the truth here, saying Robert Downey Jr. to star in Doctor Doom is Marvel's Avengers Doomsday. I don't want Doctor Doom, Robert Downey Jr. I don't know that anybody does, and I'm surprised that there wasn't enormous amounts of groans in the audience for Comic-Con. There may have been. It may have been masked by a lot of cheering sounds from some speakers around the room. I don't know. I wasn't there. Maybe other people can answer that question. But coming back and having the crowd going bologna sausage crazy just doesn't seem realistic to me. I feel like maybe this is a stretch, to be kind. But a Fantastic Four villain was needed, especially Doctor Doom, who can be the universe's big bad for a long while before we get to Galactus. And Galactus seems to have been the message they were pushing prior to this. But if the leaks are true and they're going to a female Galactus, there's going to be bigger problems afoot than that. Now, the highlighted comment here is, now you must be wondering, didn't Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark die at the end of Avengers Endgame? Well, you underestimate Marvel head Kevin Feige's current desperation. I don't. It's pretty clear. Based on what he said at CinemaCon, Downey Jr. would be playing a character that bears no relation whatsoever to Stark. That was not a good sign. He's just Victor Von Doom, and he's part of the retro future world of Marvel's upcoming Fantastic Four First Steps, which I'm now even less excited about. Desperate stunt casting or master play on the part of Feige? Who bloody well knows. But just to recap, Marvel lost Jonathan Majors and decided to heck with it. Let's bring Robert Downey Jr. back and rewrite the entirety of Avengers 5 and 6 that was centered around Kang. And so they have. And finally, Forbes decided we need to weigh in. And I agree. Robert Downey Jr.'s casting as Doctor Doom sparks backlash from fans almost immediately. This was put together, well, in the middle of the night on Sunday. And as you can see here, I don't think Forbes is on board either. Robert Downey Jr.'s return to Marvel was inevitable, but Marvel fans were shocked to see the 59-year-old actor unveiled as supervillain Doctor Doom, and so was I. Downey Jr.'s casting was announced during San Diego Comic-Con on Saturday by MCU President Kevin Feige, who I consider more and more of a mid-level B-film hack at this point, who is resting upon the shoulders of greater men who put him in a position to pretend to be a giant success. So you're going to get the Russo brothers back for 2 more films, both of those being Secret Wars and Doomsday, and both of those will have Downey Jr. in them, reportedly. And whether or not you know who Doctor Doom is, he's basically the big bad for Fantastic Four and for the larger universe as well. And I have a feeling that a lot of people aren't happy. In fact, fans reacted with bafflement and mockery, according to Forbes. And you can see here, I don't even have words, but the way the MCU has completely reduced itself to cash grabs and nostalgia with no sense of creativity has to be studied. And I agree. Tom from Draws Tom says, some people trying to say that Robert Downey Dr. Doom casting is so stupid, it's brilliant. And I just feel like this right now. It's so dumb. It's so dumb, it's brilliant. No, it's just dumb. And I agree. I truly agree. And a lot of people expressed disappointment that Doom, who's a hugely popular villain, believe it or not, has been wasted on a casting gimmick. Lady Emily says, I've seen the Doctor Doom news and I'm going to take a walk. Yeah. Tyler Harris says, tears in my eyes. We are never getting a good adaptation of the best comic book villain ever. I agree with that one, Tyler. Even Von Doom, which is Evan Reed's comics, I guess, says, I get it's multiversity and blah, 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 but Iron Man being Doctor Doom means absolutely nothing to the MCU as we know it, and does nothing for the character Doctor Doom. It just sells tickets. It's boring, disrespectful of my fave, and doesn't make sense. Next. Yeah. And let's see, this small Putrook or whatever the name of this person is I like how Kevin Feige wants the MCU to last for several decades, yet he wastes the most iconic Marvel villain of all time on something you would find on DeviantArt 14 years ago. Wow. And of course, others jokingly predicted that Marvel's version of the X-Men were going to be played by the Avengers. And would anybody be surprised? Can't wait for MCU's X-Men. Well, we already kind of got a glimpse in that. With a little bit of a spoiler, you do get one of the Fantastic Four actors from previous films in Deadpool and Wolverine. So, sorry about that. But Kang is definitely not returning, and I'm absolutely okay with that. He was a terrible villain, terribly portrayed, and mostly just annoying. And wasted in a terrible television program that a lot of people enjoy for some reason, which I don't understand. So they are about to potentially waste the Marvel Universe's best villain of all because they fumbled with Kang. I think a lot of people agree. I don't know how else to react to this other than to say I'm extremely disappointed. I imagine many of you are as well. And it seems like a lot of the critics that would normally be incredibly supportive of Marvel are reacting very poorly as well. And that doesn't bode well for the future of Marvel. So I ask you, do you think this is a good decision to pursue a Marvel Downey Jr., and I'm going to keep saying it that way now, a Marvel Downey Jr., bad guy? Make him Doctor Doom? Do Do you think that's going to make the MCU last longer? Do you think it's going to encourage people to see the films? I don't. Because as the leaks come out and people become more and more disenfranchised as we get closer and closer to these films, I think people are going to recognize that the heart and soul of the MCU was Robert Downey Jr., who became Marvel Downey Jr., and that's all gone now. And to try to stunt cast your way out of the problem is more than a little bit telling. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya.